What's up, everybody? I'm Nick Campo. This is
Big Boss Ben.
Big Boss Ben, and we are the Lone Guys Podcast. We're coming to you live from the Campo Media Group studios. We are an NBI Financial Group, brought to you. NBI Financial Group, the premier mortgage broker.
Better believe it.
Woo! Before we get started, if you haven't done it yet, go ahead and bang that red subscribe button. Turn on your notifications. That way you know every single time that we post a video. Go and follow us on all of our social media, NBI Financial Group on everything, and it's literally every social media channel. Ben, where can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok, all under Big Boss Ben or Ben Singleton.
And I'm on all the channels, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, all of it. I'm Mortgage Man Nick. Ben, what do you got for us today?
Oh, you're not the mortgage mobster anymore?
No, I didn't want to intimidate people.
Oh, well, yeah.
Mortgage Man Nick sounds better.
It's easy to do nowadays.
Oh, yeah. What's up, though? What do we got?
So wanted to start off with some new comments made by the Fed. In particular, we're talking about John Williams, who is the president of the New York Fed. So his quote here is modest, that he's expecting modest growth this year. Not the recession that many have forecasted.
Well, isn't there modest growth in a recession?
That's exactly my point. It's wild. Like in this, he predicts that there's going to be a 4 to 5% increase in the unemployment rates over the next year. He's also saying that, the bank situation is now stabilized. So he's expecting that they're going to hike rates even more by another 25 basis points.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
He just described a recession and then said it wasn't a recession.
Essentially, yes. I mean, and the fact that he's saying, too, that he's going to hike it another 25 basis points, a lot of the Fed, thankfully, have kind of finally caught on, like, hey, this is not good. We do not need to be raising it like we have. Inflation has already caught up enough, considering shelter inflation right now. I mean, those numbers are still behind.
Right.
They're getting better and better each month when the CPI numbers come out.
I heard another quarter basis point this coming meeting.
That's what he's saying, too.
And then possibly next meeting. But by the next meeting, we'll have the updated CPI numbers showing housing has caught up.
It's wild.
You know how I like to stay politically correct?
Yes. How?
So I'm going to be very politically correct here, and this dude sounds dumb.
I mean, he is.
Is that politically correct?
Not. I mean, who cares? Who cares? I mean,
man alive, how are you?
It makes no sense. It's inflation numbers, and 44% of the overall CPI index comes from shelter inflation because real estate, rent prices, car loans, like that is the major expense for the vast majority of Americans, 99% of Americans. Right. And the fact that all of that's delayed by 1 to 5 years, depending on like a car loan, whatever the financing may be, you have to take that into account. And with the inflation numbers improving like they have been, like it's only going to get better because of that.
Right.
Like you can't keep raising it when we've ran into a potentially a major issue.
Well, they can keep raising it, but they shouldn't.
Right.
If they know what they're doing. Right. Or maybe they do know what they're doing. Here's where the conspiracy comes out at me. Are they doing this on purpose? Because if you continue to hike rates, what's going to happen is the economy is going to start shrinking. Not going backwards, but it's going to start slowing. Shrinking was the wrong word. The economy will start slowing. And when the economy starts slowing, you're going to see layoffs. You're going to see people not hiring. Right. We went through this on one of our episodes recently, and we had a conversation. There's more jobs, but less hours being worked, which means there's more part-time jobs and less hours. That's an inflation sign. Not inflation, I'm sorry, that's a recession sign. Manufacturing numbers, New York manufacturing numbers, if you look at them, they've been in recession sign for a long time. Right. Amazon's laying people off. There's been bank runs, dude.
Right.
Multiple bank runs. And then you have the Fed, Janet Yellen. Oh, Janet Yellen, my girl. Do you know, she's kind of hot. I'm just kidding. If you've ever seen her, everybody knows that's a joke. But Janet Yellen, the old saying is if you don't look good, you better be smart. She's not very smart.
Focus on the debt ceiling. Focus on the debt ceiling.
And listen, this is that part's pure comedy. But yeah, she needs to focus on the debt ceiling. She's come out and said she's going to increase debt $50 trillion. But my favorite part is when they asked if the Fed would bail out other banks if there was a bank run, they said that basically, long story short, she's going to pick and choose.
Right. Oh, and you know what happened? I mean, talk about conspiracy theories. Q1, guess who made a profit?
Who?
Bank of America, even after dropping their mortgage program like they did, like reducing their mortgage program like they did. Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, all recorded an increase of profits from the previous quarter.
And they are now buying those small banks that are having the runs that Miss
Bingo.
That Miss Yellen, the beauty that she is.
So who's really profiting from this?
Yeah,
it's the big banks. Like it's
because they're picking and choosing their favorites, right? So here's the problem, and everybody wants to talk about this. The problem we have is we have a corrupt government, and it's corrupted not in like, hey, I'm going to try and take advantage of people. It's corrupted in I'm going to try to benefit myself the most. Miss Janet Yellen. Again, she's beautiful. I was kidding about what I was saying. She essentially says we're going to pick and choose.
Right.
Well, guess who has the most influence when it comes to politicians? And I know she's not a politician, but she's appointed by this administration. Guess who has the most influence? Corporations. Big corporations, because they hire lobbyists. These lobbyists go up to Washington. They make major donations to PACs and campaigns to get people elected. And then they do what? They ask for favors. And the favor that these big banks have asked for in this situation is if we get in trouble, help us. 2008, they helped the big banks, but they allowed certain ones to fail, right? And now Miss Yellen is saying, we will help the bank. We're going to pick and choose, but we're going to pick and choose the ones that'll cause the quote unquote least amount of economic difficulty.
Yes.
So you're allowing somebody who's appointed by a government official to say, hey, Ben, your money is in this local bank down here, South State Bank, we'll call it, because we're in the South and God bless America. South State Bank. South State Bank gets a run on it. Janet Yellen's not helping you. They aren't big enough to have any influence in Washington. And quote unquote, it won't cause economic impact. But hey, Ben, your money's not safe. You won't be able to support your family. You won't be able to give payroll to your employees. And I will say this, as a business owner myself, be smart enough to recognize this. All our accounts are with the big banks. JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. That's who we do business with, because I never want to be in the situation like a Silicon Valley bank where there's a bank run and we run our payroll through them and we're above the FDIC limit, right? And a lot of times with payroll, especially as you get bigger as a company, you're above that limit, and then my money and my deposits aren't protected, and then I can't pay my employees.
You're right. I mean, that's what you have to do as a business. And I mean, and look, that's what a lot of the bigger banks are doing.
But that sucks that we have to do that.
Because they are doing that, and they're increasing hiring. They're providing that value to their employees. But I can guarantee you right now we're going to start getting a lot of comments about, oh, this capitalism's failing because these businesses.
It's not capitalism.
It's not capitalism. Exactly. It's what is true capitalism is limited to no interference from the government. We are not getting that. I mean, the government needs to stand back and not do anything.
The problem is
with these rates and with everything that's been done, that's been artificially manipulated by it. That is not creating an equal playing field that allows capitalism to thrive. Like, so you cannot blame this on capitalism.
No, what you can blame it on is corporatism.
Correct.
It's corporatism.
Correct.
Corporations control the government officials who don't have term limits, who then make laws and rules based on the favors that they have to give so that they can keep having somebody pay them to fund their campaign. You want to know what the crazy part about it is? I can go into any community and say that statement right there, and they would agree with me.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's not on the businesses. It's on every single person who is out there voting for someone who is going to go in there and support basically big government, overuse of government. Because if we want to make any changes, that needs to stop.
It has to stop, and then term limits have to be put into place too. Right. Because if you put in the term limits, you give people who actually want to help, right? Do you think... I'm going to use Miss Nancy Pelosi, another good-looking beauty there. I'm going to use her as an example. She made millions of dollars as a Congress or a House of Representatives, Speaker of the House, right? So she made millions of dollars. How is that? Oh, her husband made trades. She outperformed mutual funds, Roth IRAs, the smartest people on Wall Street and in the stock community. She outperformed them. And this isn't just her. It goes on she's a Democrat. I'm not attacked. It's both sides. It's Republicans too. We can look at Mitch McConnell, another good looking dude. Why are only ugly people representing the government? I think you have to be ugly to. That's like a thing for.
Right.
But anyways, long story short, they all made money. How do they outperform the smartest people in the world when it comes to stocks, bonds? They're outperforming the smartest people in the world who do that every single day. How do they do that? Oh, insider information. So that's another thing. Let's do term limits. And hey, if you're in Congress, House of Representatives, a government official, you don't get to trade. Am I wrong on that?
You shouldn't be, but but even if you limit it, they're going to do it anyways through family members. It's not
family
going to
members
stop
can't.
it.
Immediate family members can't either. Let's say that. Let's make an actual rule that they can. If you want to go into the government and you want to make decisions on us and base your decisions financially and so on and so forth, because they affect a lot of the financials. Now, do they control it? No, man. Don't use that as an excuse. But at the end of the day, like, there is an influence on it. I feel bad for the people at the small banks that Janet Yellen won't save because it's not enough of an economic impact. Okay, well, what if they have a young family? You don't think that's an economic impact?
Yes.
Like, come on. We should not be picking and choosing favorites. We should not have federal government officials. We should not have federally appointed officials. We should not have these people who say, I'm picking and choosing based on what's going to cause the least economic impact. The problem is, in 2008, they picked winners. They picked winners. And now you're seeing the effects of 2008 now.
Right.
Now, the housing market's not the same, so we're not going to have this huge bubble that blows up. It's completely different. Vacancy rates are at all-time lows,
right?
So, which means we're not going to have this big bust and this big.
Yeah,
it's not 2008, right? So it's just they pick and chose winners, and when they did that, they did more harm than they did good. And anything the government touches turns to shit. Like, seriously, anything the government touches turns to shit. How did we become of America? No taxation without representation. And here's the deal. I believe that it should be no taxation with or without representation. Now, if you want to come to me and ask me, should I give some money to the roads, to police, to the EMTs, to the fire departments, I would be okay with that. But I want to know where every dollar is going.